The sky above Earth changed on a Tuesday. Captain Jiho stood at the main window of Earth's orbital defense platform, his eyes fixed on the stars. For 15 years he had watched this same view. He knew every satellite path and the normal traffic, patterns of supply ships. But today something was different. "Sir, sensors are picking up an unknown object," said Officer Kim. Her voice was steady, but her fingers tapped quickly on the control panel. "It's big and it's coming fast." Jiho nodded. "Alert Defense Command. Put all weapons on standby." The strange object appeared first as a small dot of light. Then it grew larger, moving unlike any Earthship. It seemed to fold space around itself, sliding between the stars rather than traveling through them. "What in the world is that?" Jiho whispered. The object stopped suddenly, just beyond the moon. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the largest Earth battleship. Its surface shimmered with a blue-green light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Officer Kim said. "It's not in any language." "I recognize." Jiho leaned forward. "Put it through the translation system." The computer worked for several minutes before a voice emerged, oddly flat but understandable. "People of Earth, we come as friends seeking help. We are the Galactic Council. May we approach?" Within 2 hours, Earth's United Defense Command had assembled an emergency meeting. Representatives from all major nations gathered in the Singapore Command Center. On a large screen at the front of the room, they watched as a small shuttle detached from the alien mothership and headed toward Earth. Commander Tae-wan of the Pacific Defense Division stood beside Jiho. "Do you believe them?" Tae-wan asked quietly. "About coming as friends?" Jiho shrugged. "If they wanted to attack, they have the technology to do it already. They wouldn't bother talking first." The alien shuttle landed on the designated pad outside the command center. Guards with weapons stood ready as the door of the shuttle opened with a soft hiss. The beings that emerged looked nothing like humans. The first was tall and thin, with skin that sparkled like crystal. It moved with a flowing grace. Behind it came 2 shorter aliens with 4 arms each and large eyes that blinked sideways. "I am Ambassador Lorexa," the crystal-like being said, its mouth not moving. The words seemed to form directly in the air. "I represent the Galactic Council of 37 species." Inside the command center, the alien sat across from the human leaders. Ambassador Lorexa's crystal body reflected the lights, sending small rainbows across the table. "We need your help," Lorexa said simply. "Our galaxy faces a threat unlike any we have seen before." The alien touched a small device on its arm and a 3D image appeared above the table. It showed a dark cloud moving through space, consuming everything in its path. Stars winked out as the cloud passed. "We call it the Void Swarm," Lorexa explained. "It appeared 1 year ago at the edge of our known space. It destroys everything. Planets, stars, ships, nothing we have done can stop it." "That's terrible," said the Secretary General. "But why come to us? Earth has only begun space exploration. We've barely reached Mars. You must have much more advanced technology." Lorexa's body changed color slightly, turning a deeper blue. The humans would later learn this was a sign of sadness. "Technology is not what we lack," the alien said. "We lack something only humans possess, something our scientists discovered when studying your transmissions in history." "And what's that?" Commander Tae-wan asked. "You have a concept we cannot fully understand. In your language it translates roughly as sacrifice, the willingness to give up one's life for others, to face certain death for a greater good." Lorexa's voice became softer. "Our species evolved through cooperation or escape. None of us developed this concept you call sacrifice. We cannot even properly express it in our languages." The room fell silent as the humans tried to understand. "You're saying none of your 37 species has ever sacrificed themselves for others?" Jiho asked, disbelief clear in his voice. "Individual protection is hardwired into our biology," explained one of the 4-armed aliens. "Even attempting to override it causes physical shutdown. The closest concept we have is acceptable loss in mathematical terms, but we cannot willingly choose death, even to save others." Lieutenant Hajun, a young tactical officer who had been quietly observing, spoke up. You called it the DeathWord in your transmission. Is that what you mean by sacrifice? Larexa turned toward Hajun. Yes. To us, it is the DeathWord, a concept so foreign we needed a new term for it. Our scientists believe this unique human trait may be the key to defeating the Void Swarm. The meeting continued for hours as the aliens explained more. The Void Swarm had already destroyed 3 star systems. Their calculations showed it would reach Earth in approximately 30 years, but half the galaxy would be consumed before then. What the aliens didn't share was the full reason they sought, humans specifically. Their archaeological teams had discovered ancient warnings about Earth beings, creatures that could endure pain, survive in hostile environments, and channel violence in controlled ways. These traits both frightened and fascinated the Council, species. As the meeting ended, Commander Tae-Wan stood. I will assemble a team of our best military minds to help you. Captain Ji-ho will coordinate from the space platform, and Lieutenant Hajun will lead the tactical planning. Larexa's body turned golden, a sign of hope. Thank you. There is one more thing. We have brought a ship, a weapon unlike any other. We believe humans may be able to use it effectively when our people cannot. What kind of ship? Ji-ho asked. We call it the Harbinger, Larexa replied. It was discovered, not built by us. It requires certain mental abilities we lack. But we must warn you, it is dangerous in ways beyond normal weapons. That night, as Earth's leaders debated the alliance, Hajun sat alone in his quarters reviewing everything he had learned about the aliens and the Void Swarm. As the youngest senior tactical officer in Earth's defense forces, he had built his career on understanding threats others missed. Lieutenant, a voice called from his doorway. It was Sun-Mi, one of the engineering chiefs. Come in, Hajun said. What's on your mind? Sun-Mi closed the door. Did you notice how the aliens reacted when Commander Tae-Wan mentioned our military history? Hajun nodded slowly. They seemed uncomfortable, almost afraid. I don't think they're telling us everything, Sun-Mi said. I've been analyzing their technology. The translation devices they gave us contain data beyond just language. There are files about human biology, psychology, even our pain thresholds. They're studying us, Hajun realized. Maybe as much as they need our help, they're also assessing if we're a threat. Sun-Mi nodded. And this ship they mentioned, the Harbinger, why bring a weapon they can't use themselves? What makes it so dangerous? Before Hajun could answer, his communication panel lit up. Commander Tae-Wan's face appeared on the screen. Lieutenant, report to Bay 12 immediately. The aliens are showing us the ship. Hajun and Sun-Mi exchanged a look. Whatever happened next would change humanity forever. As they hurried through the corridors, neither noticed the small crystal device Larexa had left behind. Inside it, a message transmitted back to the Galactic Council. Humans have agreed to help. They show expected courage and curiosity, but also caution. The DeathWord concept is deeply ingrained in their thinking. Proceeding with Phase 1, the Harbinger will be revealed. In the darkness of space, the Void Swarm consumed another star, growing ever stronger as it sensed new prey across the galaxy. Bay 12 was the largest docking area on the space station. Even so, it barely contained the alien shuttle that had brought the Harbinger from the mothership. Hajun and Sun-Mi arrived breathless from their run through the station. They joined Commander Tae-Wan and Captain Ji-ho, who stood with Ambassador Larexa and several other aliens. Is that the Harbinger? Hajun asked, pointing at the shuttle. Larexa made a sound like gentle bells. The humans now knew this was alien laughter. No, Lieutenant, this is just a transport. The Harbinger is inside. The shuttle's side opened, revealing a dark space. From within, something moved. At first, Hajun thought it was a large animal. The shape seemed to flow rather than walk, changing as it emerged into the light. Then he realized what he was seeing. It was a ship, but unlike any he had ever imagined. About the size of a small Earth fighter, the Harbinger had no fixed shape. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, dark gray with lines of blue light pulsing beneath the surface. Is it Alive? Sunmi whispered. Not exactly, one of the four-armed aliens explained. It is a biomechanical creation, part machine, part engineered organic material. It responds to neural input. Commander Taewan walked slowly around the strange vessel. You said you discovered it. You didn't build it yourselves? Lorexa's crystal body flickered slightly. Correct. Our explorers found it in an abandoned space station at the edge of the galaxy. We believe it was created by an ancient species that vanished long ago. Hajun noticed how the ship seemed to turn slightly, following Taewan's movement like it was watching him. How does it work? He asked. It bonds with its pilot, Lorexa said. The neural connection allows direct control. The ship becomes an extension of the pilot's body and mind. And why can't your people operate it? Jiho asked the question they were all thinking. The aliens looked at each other uncomfortably before Lorexa answered. The ship requires certain mental qualities we lack. It needs a mind capable of handling multiple battle scenarios at once. It needs controlled aggression. You mean it needs violence, Sunmi said bluntly. Controlled violence, Lorexa corrected. Our species evolved as cooperators or escapers. We cannot process aggressive thoughts the way humans can. When our pilots tried to connect with the Harbinger, their minds shut down from stress. Hajun stepped closer to the ship. The surface rippled as if responding to his presence. May I touch it? He asked. Lorexa hesitated, then nodded. Briefly. Without proper preparation, extended contact can be overwhelming. Hajun reached out and placed his palm against the ship's surface. The metal felt warm, almost like skin. The moment his hand made contact, he gasped. Images flooded his mind, stars, planets, battles, fire. He felt a surge of energy through his body like electricity, but somehow pleasant. It's amazing, he whispered. Commander Taewan pulled him back gently. That's enough for now, Lieutenant. Hajun blinked, feeling dizzy. Sir, it was trying to connect with me. I could feel it searching my mind. That is how it works, Lorexa explained. The Harbinger seeks compatible neural patterns. It seems to find yours interesting. Over the next week, a special training area was set up for human pilots to learn about the Harbinger. 20 officers were selected, with Hajun appointed as lead pilot. Sunmi joined the team as chief engineer, tasked with understanding the ship's technology. The training began with simple neural connection exercises. The pilots wore special helmets that simulated the Harbinger's interface. Focus on flying patterns, instructed one of the alien technicians. Imagine the movements clearly in your mind. Hajun closed his eyes and pictured a complex series of turns and dives. On the screen in front of him, a digital version of the Harbinger performed the exact sequence he had imagined. This is incredible, said Minsu, a quiet weapons specialist who had joined the team. It's reading our thoughts perfectly. By the third day, the pilots were ready for actual connection to the ship. Hajun went first. He sat in a special chair that had been installed inside the Harbinger. The interior was small but comfortable, with no visible controls, just smooth surfaces that glowed softly. Remember, Lorexa's voice came through a speaker. Stay calm. Control your emotions. The ship amplifies what you feel. Hajun took a deep breath as neural connectors extended from the chair and attached to the back of his neck. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the world exploded into light and sensation. He was the Harbinger. He could feel every part of the ship as if it were his own body. The engines were his muscles, the sensors his eyes and ears. He could feel the space around him in ways his human senses never could. He couldn't find words. It was like being born again as something greater. Then he thought about flying, and instantly the Harbinger responded. Although still docked, its systems came fully online. Hajun felt power surging through the ship's engines, through his new body. Lieutenant, your heart rate is spiking, Sunmi's concerned voice came through. Try to stay calm. But the feeling was too exhilarating. Hajun imagined soaring through space faster than any Earth ship could travel. In response, the Harbinger's engines flared, straining against the docking clamps. Alarm bells rang in the Bay. Shut it down, someone shouted. The neural connection was severed abruptly. Ha-Jun fell forward in the chair, gasping. His entire body tingled, and he could still feel phantom sensations of the ship. What happened? Commander Taewon asked as medical staff helped Ha-Jun out. The connection was too strong, Lorexa explained. This is why we call it dangerous. The ship doesn't just read your thoughts, it amplifies your emotions. When a pilot feels excitement or fear, the ship's power increases. Sunmi finished. That's why you need humans. We can handle strong emotions without shutting down. Later that evening, Min-Soo approached Ha-Jun in the dining hall. The weapons specialist rarely spoke, but now he seemed troubled. I've been studying the ship's weapon systems, Min-Soo said quietly. They're like nothing I've ever seen, and the aliens have installed limiters on them. Limiters? Why? Ha-Jun asked. I think they're afraid of what the ship can really do, Min-Soo whispered. I don't believe they found this ship by accident. Something about their story doesn't add up. Before they could discuss further, Sunmi joined them looking excited. I've discovered something, she said. The ship's material contains organic components that respond to human DNA differently than alien DNA. It's almost like it was designed for humans specifically. But that's impossible, Ha-Jun said. According to the Council, this ship is thousands of years old. Humans weren't even in space then. The three looked at each other, all thinking the same thing. The aliens weren't telling them everything. Meanwhile, in a secure room, Commander Taewon watched recordings of the day's training sessions. The way the Harbinger responded to human pilots concerned him. He made a decision. Captain Ji-ho, he called over the comm. I need you to start a separate project. Something not shared with our alien friends. Sir? Ji-ho questioned. I want our engineers to develop an independent control system for the Harbinger. Something that can override it if necessary. You don't trust the aliens? Ji-ho asked. Taewon sighed. I don't trust that ship, and I need to protect our people. In her private quarters, Ambassador Lorexa communicated with the Galactic Council. The humans are progressing faster than expected, she reported. Their neural compatibility with the Harbinger exceeds our predictions. Are the limiters holding? Asked a voice from the council. For now, Lorexa answered. But they are curious. They ask many questions. Do not reveal the ship's true origins, the council warned. Not until we are certain the humans can control it without becoming a threat themselves. As she ended the poor communication, Lorexa looked out at the stars. The void swarm was growing stronger each day. They needed the humans and their strange concept of sacrifice. They needed the DeathWord. But sometimes, Lorexa wondered which would prove more dangerous. In the end, the void swarm or the humans and their dangerous ship. 3 weeks after first contact, the Harbinger was ready for its first real flight. Ha-Jun and his crew had trained daily, learning to control their emotions while connected to the ship. They discovered that calm, focused thoughts produced the best results. The Harbinger now floated in space near Earth's moon, its surface shimmering in the sunlight. Inside, Ha-Jun sat in the pilot's chair with Min-Soo and Ji-eun, a brilliant science officer, in seats behind him. Neural connection starting in 3, 2, 1, Ha-Jun said. The familiar rush of sensations flooded his mind as he became one with the ship. Unlike his first attempt, he remained calm, letting the connection settle naturally. Status? Commander Taewon's voice came through the communication system. Connection stable, Ha-Jun replied. The ship feels eager. That was the best way to describe it. The Harbinger seemed to want to move, to fly, to show what it could do. Proceed with test flight pattern alpha, Taewon ordered. Ha-Jun didn't need to touch any controls. He simply thought about the flight pattern, and the Harbinger responded. The ship moved smoothly, performing a series of turns and spins around the moon. Amazing, Ji-eun whispered. The inertial dampeners are perfect. I can barely feel the movement. Min-Soo was monitoring the weapon systems. The limiters are still in place, he reported quietly. But I can sense the power behind them. This ship could destroy a small moon if fully unleashed. After the successful test flight, The Harbinger joined a fleet of council ships near the edge of the Cygnus arm of the galaxy. This was the front line against the Void Swarm, which had already consumed 3 star systems. From the fleet's command station, Ha-Jun and his team attended a briefing with alien military leaders. Large screens showed the dark cloud of the swarm spreading across space. "It moves like water," Ji-un observed. "Not random, but flowing around certain obstacles while consuming others." The alien commander, a tall being with tentacle-like limbs, nodded. "Yes, but we cannot predict its path. Some worlds it destroys completely. Others it barely touches." Ji-un frowned. "That suggests intelligence, not just a natural disaster. Have you analyzed what types of planets it completely consumes versus those it ignores?" The aliens looked at each other in surprise. "We had not considered that approach," the commander admitted. Back on their ship, Ji-un set up research equipment. "I need sensor data from all consumed and ignored planets," she told Ha-Jun. "There must be a pattern." While Ji-un worked, Ha-Jun prepared for a dangerous mission. The council had asked them to take the Harbinger closer to the swarm than any ship had gone before. Their advanced sensors might discover new information about the enemy. "This is reckless," Sunmi said over the video link from Earth. "We still don't fully understand the ship." "We don't have a choice," Ha-Jun replied. "The swarm is moving faster now. The council estimates it could reach populated worlds within months, not years." The mission began at what the aliens called dark time, when the energy patterns of space were quietest. The Harbinger moved silently toward the edge of the swarm, its sensors recording everything. As they approached, Ha-Jun felt something strange. Through his neural connection, a faint humming, almost like the ship was responding to a signal. "Are you picking up any communication signals?" he asked Ji-un. She checked her instruments. "Yes, very faint. But they're not coming from the council ships. They're coming from the swarm itself." Minsu leaned forward. "The swarm is communicating?" "With what?" "I don't know," Ji-un said. "But I can try to record these signals for analysis." Ha-Jun guided the ship closer. Through the Harbinger's advanced sensors, they could now see that the swarm wasn't a single mass but billions of tiny machines, each smaller than a grain of sand. They moved together in perfect coordination, like a school of fish. "It's not a natural phenomenon," Ji-un said excitedly. "The swarm is artificial, a weapon or a tool created by someone." Suddenly, the Harbinger's systems flashed warnings. A portion of the swarm had broken off and was moving toward them at high speed. "We've been detected," Minsu warned. "Defensive. Systems online." Ha-Jun didn't need to think twice. He spun the Harbinger around and pushed its engines to maximum. The ship responded instantly, shooting away from the approaching danger. But part of him, the part connected deeply to the ship, wanted to stay and fight. He could feel the Harbinger's weapons straining against their limiters, ready to unleash destruction. "Ha-Jun, focus!" Ji-un's voice broke through his thoughts. "Get us out of here." They escaped, but not before Ji-un's instruments recorded valuable data. When they returned to the fleet, she immediately began analyzing what they had found. Hours later, she called everyone to the ship's small meeting room. "I've discovered something important," she announced. "The swarm is targeting specific elements. Look at this data." She showed them a chart comparing planets the swarm had completely consumed versus those it had ignored. The consumed planets all had high concentrations of rare elements, particularly something the aliens call nexium. The ignored planets had little or none. "What's nexium used for?" Ha-Jun asked. "It's a key component in advanced energy systems," Ji-un explained. "The kind that powers starships and weapons." Minsu nodded slowly. "So the swarm is gathering resources, not just destroying randomly." "There's more," Ji-un continued. "I've partially decoded the communication signals. They're not random noise. They're commands and reports. Something is controlling the swarm, giving it instructions." This news shocked everyone. The council had believed the swarm was a mindless force of destruction. The idea that it was being controlled changed everything. Meanwhile, on the council's command station, Commander Tae-wan had made a disturbing discovery of his own. While reviewing classified files he'd been granted access to, he found mentions of an ancient species called the Orcs. According to the records, the Orcs had engaged in a catastrophic war thousands of years ago, using weapons that matched the description of the Void Swarm. More troubling was a file about the Harbinger. It wasn't just discovered by the Council as they claimed. It had been carefully preserved and studied for centuries. The file contained warnings about species with aggressive tendencies who should never be allowed to fully control the ship. Taiwan realized the Council had a hidden agenda. They needed humans because of their unique ability to operate the Harbinger, but they also feared what would happen if humans discovered the ship's full capabilities. He needed to warn Ha-Jun, but direct communication might be monitored. Instead, he encoded a message in a routine supply shipment. Trust the ship. Limiters are not for safety but control. Council knows more than they say about both threats. Be careful who you trust. On the Harbinger, Junho, the communications specialist, received the supply shipment and found the hidden message. He brought it immediately to Ha-Jun. After reading it, Ha-Jun looked at his team. It seems we're caught between two dangers, the swarm and possibly the Council itself. What do we do? Ji-un asked. Ha-Jun stared out the viewport at the distant darkness of the swarm. We do what humans have always done. We find the truth, and we fight for survival. As if responding to his words, the Harbinger's systems pulsed with blue light. Through the neural connection, Ha-Jun felt something new, not just the ship's power but a sense of purpose. Whatever secrets it held, the Harbinger seemed to be choosing sides, and it had chosen the humans. Ha-Jun gathered his crew in the secure room of the Harbinger. They had disabled all monitoring devices to ensure their conversation remained private. We need to discuss what we've learned, he said quietly. Ji-un, share your findings first. Ji-un nodded and displayed images on a small screen. The Void Swarm is a weapon, not a natural disaster. Based on the communication patterns I've decoded, it appears to be controlled from a central point, what I'm calling the node. She showed them a map of the swarm's movement. The node stays here at the center. The rest of the swarm spreads out to collect resources and then returns them. Can we target this node? Min-Su asked. Theoretically, yes, but it's protected by the densest concentration of swarm units. No ship has ever penetrated that deep and survived. Ha-Jun turned to Junho. What about Commander Taiwan's message? Any updates? The communications officer nodded. He sent more information hidden in routine transmissions. The Harbinger isn't just any ship. It was created by the same ancient species that might have created the swarm, the Orcs. This news stunned everyone. So the ship and the swarm are connected? Sunmi asked over the secure video link from Earth. It explains why the Harbinger's systems respond when we're near the swarm, Ha-Jun said. They recognize each other. Sunmi leaned closer to her camera. I've been studying the neural interface. The limiters the aliens installed don't just restrict the weapons. They prevent full integration with the ship. If we removed them, the ship would be more powerful, Min-Su finished. But at what cost? The neural load would increase dramatically, Sunmi admitted. It could be dangerous for the pilot. Ha-Jun thought about this. What kind of danger? Physical strain, possibly permanent neural damage, in extreme cases. Sunmi hesitated. The pilot's consciousness could be lost in the ship's systems. The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. Using the Harbinger's full power might require the ultimate demonstration of the DeathWord, a sacrifice. Meanwhile, on the Council command station, Ambassador Lorexa met with other alien leaders. The mood was grim. The swarm has accelerated its advance, reported a military commander. 3 more systems are now in immediate danger. What about the human ship? Asked Subminister Krell, a tall, thin alien with gray skin. Have they made progress? They've learned much about the swarm's nature, Lorexa replied. But they're asking too many questions about the Harbinger. I believe they suspect we haven't been entirely truthful. Krell made a sharp clicking sound, a sign of disapproval. I warned against involving humans. They're too unpredictable, too aggressive. We had no choice, Lorexa reminded him. None of our species can operate the ship effectively. And if they remove the limiters? Krell asked. What then? We could be creating a greater threat than the swarm. Before Lorexa could answer, Commander Taewan entered the room. The aliens fell silent, wondering how much he had heard. I have a proposal, Taewan announced. Lieutenant Hajun believes they can target the swarm's central node. With your permission, we'd like to attempt a direct attack. The aliens looked at each other in surprise. That would be suicidal, said the military commander. The node is too well protected. Perhaps for your ships, Taewan replied. But the Harbinger has unique capabilities. What are you suggesting? Lorexa asked cautiously. A small strike team, one ship, the Harbinger, modified for maximum effectiveness. Krell stepped forward. Modified how? That's what I'd like to discuss, Taewan said smoothly, revealing nothing of what he really knew. Later, Hajun received a message from Taewan. Proposal accepted. Proceed with preparations. Be ready for unexpected resistance. Not all friends are friendly. Hajun understood the hidden meaning. Some members of the council opposed their plan. They needed to move carefully. On the Harbinger, Sunmi worked remotely with the crew to prepare for the dangerous mission. She had developed a way to gradually remove the limiters without alerting the alien monitors. Each system needs to be recalibrated slowly, she explained. If we do it all at once, they'll notice. Over the next 3 days, the Harbinger's capabilities grew stronger. Hajun could feel the difference through the neural connection, like having a weight lifted from his mind. The most dramatic change came when they tested the weapon systems. What had once been powerful became extraordinary. The Harbinger could now generate energy beams that cut through test asteroids like they were made of paper. This is what they were afraid of, Minsu said as they reviewed the test results. This ship could destroy an entire fleet if it wanted to. Hajun nodded. But we're not fighting fleets. We're fighting the swarm. The day before the planned mission, Hajun called his crew together. What he had to say wasn't easy. Sunmi has explained the risks of full neural integration. He began. I need you all to understand what we're facing. To reach the swarm's central node, we'll need every bit of power this ship has. That means removing all limiters and accepting complete neural connection. He paused, looking at each person. The strain will be extreme. There's a real possibility that whoever pilots the ship may not be able to disconnect afterward. The room was silent for a long moment. You're talking about sacrifice, Jion said quietly. The DeathWord the aliens came to Earth for. Yes, Hajun admitted. I will take that risk as pilot. The rest of you should. No, Minsu interrupted. It was unusual for the quiet weapons officer to speak so forcefully. The neural load can be shared. If we all connect to the ship, we distribute the strain. But that puts everyone at risk, Hajun objected. Minsu stood straighter. We are Earth's defense force. Protecting others is our duty. One by one, the other crew members nodded in agreement. I volunteer, Ji-Yun said. And I, added Junho. Each member of the crew made the same choice. It was the DeathWord in action, the willingness to sacrifice for others. What they didn't know was that their conversation was being monitored, despite their precautions. On the council station, several alien observers watched in stunned silence. I don't understand, one said. They know they might die, yet they choose to proceed? Ambassador Lorexa's crystal body glowed with a soft blue light. This is the DeathWord concept we sought, this willingness to face death for others. It's unnatural, Subminister Krell hissed, and dangerous. If they succeed, what will stop them from using that ship against us? We should trust them, Lorexa argued. They're risking everything to save not just their world, but ours too. Trust is a luxury we cannot afford, Krell replied. I've taken precautions. What have you done? Lorexa demanded. Insurance, Krell said simply. If the humans survive their mission, the ship will not. As the Harbinger made final preparations, Hajun felt a strange sensation through the neural connection, like the ship was trying to warn him of something. But there was no time to investigate. The swarm had just consumed another star system, and 3 populated worlds now lay directly in its path. Tomorrow, they would fly into the heart of darkness. Tomorrow, they would truly understand the power of the DeathWord. The day of the mission arrived. The Harbinger floated at the edge of the fleet, its surface now glowing with bright blue lines. The limiters had been fully removed, allowing the ship to reach its true potential. Inside, Hajun and his crew made final preparations. Each wore a special neural interface suit designed by Sunmi. These will help distribute the neural load, Sunmi explained over the video link. But be careful. If anyone's readings go critical, they must disconnect immediately. Hajun looked at his team. Last chance to change your minds. No one moved. Then let's begin. One by one, they connected to the ship. As each crew member joined, the Harbinger's systems grew stronger. By the time all 20 humans were linked, the ship pulsed with energy unlike anything the watching alien fleet had ever seen. Neural synchronization complete, Ji-eun reported, her voice slightly distant as part of her consciousness merged with the ship's systems. Weapons at full capacity, Minsu added. Hajun closed his eyes, feeling the Harbinger as an extension of himself, but now with the combined strength and thoughts of his entire crew. Beginning approach to the swarm. The Harbinger moved forward, accelerating to speeds the Council ships could not match. As they approached the outer edge of the swarm, the tiny machines seemed to notice them. A dark wave began moving to intercept. They recognized the ship, Ji-eun said. The patterns are changing. Through the neural link, Hajun could almost feel the swarm's confusion. The Harbinger was similar to something it knew yet different, enemy yet familiar. Firing disruption beams, Minsu announced. The Harbinger released pulses of energy that scattered the approaching swarm units. Unlike conventional weapons, these beams carried a signal pattern Ji-eun had developed, one that briefly confused the swarm's communication system. It's working, Junho called out. We're creating a path. The Harbinger pushed forward, deeper, into the darkness. All around them the swarm churned and flowed, trying to close in but momentarily disoriented by their signals. Hajun felt a strange doubling of his thoughts. Part of him was still human, concerned for his crew and mission, but another part was becoming something else, merging with the Harbinger's ancient systems and understanding things he never could, as just a man. The node is 10,000 kilometers ahead, Ji-eun reported, but the swarm density is increasing. Our disruption beams are losing effectiveness. The ship shuddered as the first wave of swarm units broke through their defenses, attaching to the Harbinger's hull and beginning to cut through. Hull breach in Sector 7, someone called out. Rerouting power to shields, Hajun commanded. The neural load intensified. Several crew members gasped as the strain increased. Warning signals flashed across their interfaces. 2 crew at critical levels, Ji-eun warned. They need to disconnect. No, one of them protested. We stay together. Hajun felt their pain through the shared connection. That's an order. Disconnect now. Reluctantly, 2 crew members severed their neural links. The load on the remaining humans immediately increased. We can still make it, Minsu said through gritted teeth. The node is getting closer. The Harbinger pushed onward, bleeding energy and taking damage but still moving forward with unstoppable determination. Through the viewports, they could now see the central node, a massive pulsing dark sphere at the heart of the swarm. Prepare main weapons, Hajun ordered. As Minsu diverted power to the weapons, a warning alarm suddenly blared through the ship. What's happening? Hajun demanded. Ji-eun frantically checked the systems. Something's activating in the ship's core. It wasn't there before. Some kind of self-destruct mechanism, Hajun immediately understood. Sabotage. Someone on the Council. Through the neural connection, he could feel the Harbinger's systems beginning to destabilize. The ship was designed to fight the swarm, but now it was fighting itself too. Can you stop it? He asked Ji-eun. Not without disconnecting from weapons control. We can either destroy the node or save the ship, not both. Hajun didn't hesitate. Focus all power on weapons. Ignore the self-destruct. But that means, Min-Su began. I know what it means. Ha-Jun cut him off. This is why they needed the DeathWord. This is what sacrifice looks like. As the Harbinger's core began to overheat, Ha-Jun made a final decision. All crew except primary team, evacuate to escape pods now. Most of the crew reluctantly obeyed, disconnecting from the neural network. The strain on the remaining few, Ha-Jun, Min-Su, and Ji-Un, became almost unbearable. We're within firing range, Min-Su reported, his voice tight with pain. Fire everything we have, Ha-Jun ordered. The Harbinger released a beam of energy so powerful it tore through space itself. The concentrated force hit the central node, piercing its dark surface. For a moment nothing happened. Then cracks of light began to spread across the node's surface. It's working, Ji-Un cried. The node is destabilizing, but their success came at a cost. The Harbinger's self-destruct sequence had accelerated. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Core meltdown in 60 seconds, the ship's system announced. Get to the last escape pod, Ha-Jun told Min-Su and Ji-Un. We're not leaving you, Ji-Un protested. Someone has to maintain the neural connection to finish this, Ha-Jun explained. The ship needs guidance to complete its mission. Then we stay together, Min-Su said firmly. Ha-Jun looked at his friends, feeling overwhelming gratitude through the neural link. Together, then. In the distance, the node's destruction had triggered a chain reaction. The swarm units were losing cohesion, their movements becoming random and uncoordinated. It's beautiful, Ji-Un whispered, watching the wave of light spread outward from the dying node. Core meltdown in 15 seconds, the system warned. Ha-Jun guided the Harbinger directly into the wounded node, pushing the ship's engines beyond their limits. In these final moments, he felt the Harbinger's true purpose, not just as a weapon, but as a key. The ship and the swarm were two halves of an ancient system, and bringing them together completed a cycle long interrupted. I understand now, he said softly. The ship wasn't just meant to fight the swarm, it was meant to control it. As the Harbinger plunged into the heart of the node, Ha-Jun, Min-Su, and Ji-Un embraced the DeathWord fully. Their final act was not just destruction, but creation, sending a shutdown command throughout the entire swarm network. The Harbinger's core reached critical. In its final moments, the ship released a pulse of energy that spread throughout the swarm, carrying the command to deactivate. Then, in a flash of light brighter than a new star, the Harbinger and the node vanished together. Throughout the galaxy, the void swarm simply stopped. Billions of tiny machines went dormant, floating harmlessly in space. On the Council command station, Ambassador Lorexa watched in awe as the reports came in. They did it, she whispered. They actually did it. Commander, Taewon stood beside her, his face showing both pride and grief. This is what we tried to explain to you. This is the DeathWord. I understand now, Lorexa said. Sacrifice isn't just about dying. It's about choosing something greater than yourself. In the aftermath, the Galactic Council was transformed. Sub-Minister Krell and his supporters were removed from power for their sabotage. A permanent alliance was formed with Earth, with Commander Taewon appointed as humanity's first ambassador. The escape pods from the Harbinger were recovered. The surviving crew members hailed as heroes across thousands of worlds. But for Ha-Jun, Min-Su, and Ji-Un, the Council built a memorial at the site where the Harbinger made its final stand. The monument bore a simple message in multiple languages, including the previously untranslatable concept. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for others. As ships from across the galaxy came to pay respects, few noticed a small Earth vessel that visited regularly. Inside, engineer Sun Mi worked tirelessly on a special project. Before the Harbinger's final mission, she had secretly made copies of her friend's neural patterns. Now, years later, her work was nearly complete. In her lab, 3 advanced android bodies waited for the restored consciousness patterns of Ha-Jun, Min-Su, and Ji-Un. The DeathWord doesn't have to be the end, Sun Mi whispered as she initiated the final transfer sequence. Sometimes sacrifice deserves a second chance. In the vastness of space where the Harbinger had disappeared, a faint blue light occasionally pulsed among the dormant swarm units. Something remained. Not quite a ship, not quite human, but a legacy of both. A guardian to ensure the ancient weapon never awakened again. The DeathWord had saved the galaxy, but humanity's story was far from over. The end.